Thank you, Paula. Okay, so I'll go back and we can have a short discussion about this, and then I'm just going to spotlight both of us. Yeah, so we can have a discussion. In other words, I'm going to say, in a sense, it's problematic, and I think it's more than in a sense. But the Chazal, our sages, give the parable of Amalek as someone who there's a boiling bath, and someone jumps in, and no one has been dared to jump into that bath of boiling water, and he jumps in, and he cools it off. And in that sense, when Am Yisrael left Egypt, they had so much faith in Hashem, and they were just going full power, full speed ahead with their emunah of what they didn't have before. And especially all of the nations around, were very afraid, because they saw what happened to the biggest empire. They saw what had happened to Egypt, and all the warriors had died, etc. So the very fact that Amalek had the chutzpah to it says, right, they caught the weak and the tail of Am Yisrael, those who were not so strong, and the very fact that they were willing to attack them in that way, was really opened things up for that, for everything that has been against the Jewish people since. Um, so I say, in a sense, the danger is very clear, because I was actually in a discussion with prominent rabbis in Israel, in which they had a whole discussion about this. This was a small forum of the most prominent religious Zionist rabbis in Israel. Some of them, excuse me, but have come out with very racist statements. Some of the people there, and Rav Yair can imagine who I'm referencing to. Um, and
The problem that you can laugh, but even those who are considered more liberal will be seen in Scandinavian ears as racist. So, and Rav
but
Moshe David doesn't
if
talk about them; he talks about the more extreme.
if someone says we should drop an atomic bomb on Gaza to get rid of them, I think that's quite a strong statement, for
Yes,
example.
yes.
We actually had a forum and a discussion with the chief rabbi Pinchas Goldschmidt of the Conference of European Rabbis in Jerusalem, and that I helped to arrange, and I was there with them, and we had this discussion about Amalek. Um, and how the reference to Amalek was used in the Hag against us as one of the proofs that there was actually an intention of ethnic cleansing. So it's not something to be taken lightly. But when I
Not only
say
Rav Moshe David, you need to be more specific. The what they said in Hague, but because the rules of Amalek is that you're supposed to kill everyone. When you refer to Amalek in consideration of Palestinians, it means you say you're supposed to kill everyone, women, children, elderly. That's not only proof for ethnic cleansing. In Hague, it was used as a proof of calling to genocide. That if Netanyahu says they are Amalek, then the consequence, the logic is, then this means genocide, not even ethnic cleansing. It's much more serious, and it was one of the main arguments in Hague. Like this religious view was the main argument in Hague against Israel, and also many people thought. I received emails from imams in Denmark asking me, well, how can you say such things? How can you claim that they don't do genocide if this is what they say, and so on? So this really is a very, very central thing.
But I'm very glad that all of the imams and in the Hague, in other words, everyone's finally learning the Torah and learning
Yes.
what Amalek is about, right? So it's wonderful that Torah is being spread in that way. But anyway, I think it's a very deep question for people today, because we've dealt with so much evil in this raw sense of evil, that you ask yourself, and the very fact that to have the audacity to attack Israel as Hamas attacked on October 7th is bring forward references of the same notion of that can open something for others to follow in the same way. And that was the discussion that we had on Shabbat. On the other hand, which I say in a reference, but I also see the danger. But one of the questions that I was learning with Chevruta on Shabbat, right, a small group that we have, and I asked a question, which I'd like to hear of Yair, your response, which is connected to Purim. In other words, if we're connected to a place on Purim in which we are so right connected to the source, to the root, be it through wine or elsewhere, that you reach a level of being beyond good and evil, and you see that Hashem is running the whole world, and everything right is being run. So why is it so important for us to remind ourselves of the evil that exists? Because if we look at the oneness of Hashem, isn't that all a part of the infiniteness of the world that we live in? So if we're uplifting ourselves to that level on Purim, why is it important the Shabbat before to remind ourselves of the evil that exists? That was my question.
And so to answer for that, I'll give the long answer, because I think one of the main mistakes that when people refer and connect, for example, let's say right now the Amalek to Palestinians, this is a lack of reading of the text. So the text says explicitly, I spoke about it in synagogue yesterday, that when is it we have to fight Amalek? When we've finished with all our wars. So when God, when we came to the place that all our enemies around, that these conflicts are finished, then we can go and fight Amalek. Which means Amalek is not one of these people who live around us and challenge our existence. Because if that was the case, they were part of the Oivecha Misaviv. And that's why it doesn't fit in any ways an existence of the Palestinians next to us, which are in a fight to exist. And you can say fighting against on the same land, the same territory. This was the fight that we had with the 7 nations. These are the fight we had with our neighbors. And Amalek, which I also mentioned in the synagogue yesterday, Amalek is one of the nations. They're not one of the 7 nations, but they're actually one of those who live close by. Amalek lives, as it says in Bamidbar, in Eretz Negev, in the land of the Negev, the desert in the south. So they actually live very close by. So why aren't they included in the enemies around us, right? If they are in the desert, they're supposed to be included in the enemies around us. But the reason is that Amalek was not one of the enemies who tried to fight the kingdom of Judea, of Israel. They weren't. They didn't go into those things, because Amalek is I would even argue that Amalek are cowards. In that sense, that Amalek always goes to fight against the weakest. They can't. They know they can't fight. You can imagine Amalek in the description of the Torah like a people of that lives in the desert and waits to carriages to come by and take them, or like see a group of fugitives who just came out of Egypt, former slaves, hungry and thirsty and wandering in the desert. These are very easy. They go on easy targets.
You mean like attacking civilians and mothers and children in kibbutzim and then hiding in tunnels?
No, because I would argue at the same time. You talk about 7th of October. One of the don't understand anything I say today as respect to what Hamas did. Okay, so don't misunderstand what I'm saying right now. One of the things that surprised everyone was that Hamas went after army bases. Like they didn't go only after the weak civilians. They went also against army bases. Did things that no one imagined possible. Taking off the thing that I talked to soldiers that were in Gaza. They said none of us imagined that it's possible to attack these military thing that we had. All the measurement, security measurement we had. We didn't imagine that there's a chance to do anything. We were so we felt so secure there because of them. I mean, and Hamas went after that too. Yes, you're right. They also went after the civilians in the women, but they did go after deep in Israel and conquered the military bases. They definitely didn't do the Amalek way. They didn't go only after the weakest that went behind. And as they say, they attacked a strong state of Israel. Amalek didn't attack a strong state of Israel. Amalek attacked a weak people who just went out of slavery and are hungry and thirsty. This is a very, very different approach. None of them is good. It's not because I think the one is good. Both of them are evil, but what Amalek did, and here I can maybe add Moshe David, which is very important. Maimonides followed this wording of the Torah and underlines that when do you need to fight Amalek? Only in the Yemot HaMashiach. It's the time of Mashiach and the time that you finished with the word, then you start fighting Amalek. And that is the wording in the Torah. It's not an enemy that attacks you. It is after everything you came to the to Menucha v'Nachala, you came to the place, you built the temple, you did all the things. Then you go actively and seek Amalek. It's not someone who is an enemy who fights you. It's someone that you need to go and seek them. And here I came with Moshe David, maybe you would like the Chidush, and I hope also some others. My father really liked it. I talked about it in synagogue today. I said, why do the Torah say that? Maybe you can understand it as that the reason that we need to fight Amalek is not because of what they did to us, but because what they did to us is a symbol of what they do. This is their trade. And when and in the first place, we can't go and fight Amalek because we still need to stand on our own feet. We need to come into the land. We need to build a country, establish, fight the fight we need to do. And then when we finish fighting all those who challenge us around, and we feel that we came to a good place economically, security-wise, and all of that, then we need to take responsibility and go after these people that exist around us and continue to fight against the weak. So because what they did to us, we need to protect others that will experience the same thing. When we are in a safe and good position, then we did starting to take care of the other things around us. Maybe it's a call, for example, for Europe, for Denmark, for Scandinavia, countries that are secure, that have a good economic. Then you have a responsibility. When you are in that good place, then you need to start fighting for the weak everywhere else in the world, because you have that responsibility. And Am Yisrael, when they came out of Egypt, they experienced how terrible that can be. Groups like Amalek. And after Israelites will come to their place and safety, then they can go and protect the world from Amalekites, and go and protect other people that are weak and in a situation that and that maybe is another lesson. But Rav Moshe David, this is, I don't remember. I haven't seen any rabbi giving this interpretation. but it fits the text perfectly.
Yeah, I
The
think
pshat of
it's a
the Torah.
very I think it's a very nice idea, but very far from people and where their mentality is today,
Yeah, it's
unfortunately, when you
not only today. The last 2,000 years, it's very clear that Amalek was used to any enemy. Like
and I
last
mean
week, I said here,
it's
Rav Moshe David, I told him last week that a rabbi in Norway said that the Amalekites today are the Swedes. Like it was used as those who we don't like. We stuck the word Amalek on them, and Amalek was really used on any and that we should be very careful with. I think that is a historically mistake. And
even though many rabbis supported the notion, for example, when you saw the Nazis and the Hitlers and
the
Hitler,
Nazis are very similar,
um,
but
right,
because
in
with
that
the
sense
Nazis,
of complete annihilation of the Jewish people in that way that had made no military sense or whatever.
no, but the idea of going after the weak, not only the Jews, the idea of going after
Yeah,
the Jews, the disables, the Roma, the group that
yeah,
are most really, though the word the strongest, is the vice versa. No, we
but
need to take it. This is the place where the similar are similar. It's not the other part that they said that they go only after the weak.
Can I just say something?
Yes.
The Palestinian leader at that time, when the Nazis came up, were dealing directly with Hitler. Palestinians were supporting Hitler too.
No. Now you mix two things. You say the leader met him a few times, and then you said the Palestinians supported. These two
The Palestinian leader at that time,
the
he was
Mufti,
directly
the
meeting
Mufti,
Hitler.
yeah,
the
the
Mufti
Mufti.
of Jerusalem, yes.
It's not because there was a election among Palestinians to leadership. He was a Mufti. He was in a specific position, but it doesn't. But don't add then the Palestinians.
No, I said the Palestinian leader.
Yeah, it's like it's one person. It's
I
not.
I don't think the Palestinians existed as a people at the time, but I don't
Yeah.
think we're gonna get caught into that
Yes.
discussion right now. I think just to bring it back, just to make 2 points, and then we've had a Wednesday Shiur Beit Midrash now, but
Yes.
I think I do want to talk about the halachot together with you, Rav Yair. But 2 points I just want to make to summarize is, first of all, you see how the Torah is relevant for us. When you live the Torah, it's constantly in your thought process of what does it mean for me? What does it mean for me today? And not to leave it as something only at the end of the days, but what does Amalek mean? But also the dangers of someone who's learning in a Beit Midrash who doesn't understand how that can affect the surrounding world. And that was why that discussion that we had with the rabbis was very important, and the follow-up afterwards, because they're just learning in the Beit Midrash, and they don't understand the larger implications in the all of you understand in the EU, and all of you, many of you deal with anti-Semitism and anti-Israel and anti, in different shades and forms. So that's one point. But the second is that the most important message that comes out of Amalek is that it's a specific case in which you can completely wipe out a nation. But it's exactly the opposite of the claim, because anything but Amalek is a clear protection from the Torah not to take anything for yourself, right? Not to even, right? Not to take any looty from the war, not to hurt women, not to hurt children. That is the basic element and principle in the Torah regarding war. And you're welcome to read the Hilchot Milchama, right? The laws of war in Maimonides. They're very right in a very simple order. You can look them up in English, but it's good to know that. In other words, that there's very clear, which is exactly the opposite of what has been said, and therefore, yeah.
What I brought halachically last week was also that according to Maimonides, and Kesef Mishnah brings it and discuss with others who disagree, is that the second an Amalekite takes upon himself Sheva Mitzvot Noach, he's not Amalek anymore. So even though you can say it's a matter of a people, but Rambam went to the direction that that second they take
That there
upon themselves the
there
basic
is
moral
hope.
rules, then they're
Yeah.
not Amalek anymore. So it's and that's even more a point that it's about fighting for a basic moral. So if people have that moral, then we're not then they're not any people that we need to wipe all of them.
And if you look at the Hasidic works of the last few hundred years, for example, there's no in nowhere do they even have a sense that this is something physical, that you're talking about physical
Yeah, it's
fighting.
only the
It's
and it's
all
ourselves. It's not
it
even
all
about the
becomes a
others.
spiritual sense of what
Yeah.
is the Amalek inside of us and how do we deal with the Amalek inside of us, and especially in a certain line of the Hasidic thought of Rav Tzadok HaCohen and the Ishbitzer Rebbe. They all go to a point that Amalek is skepticism, is not having enough belief in myself. In the same way that Amalek attacked the weak, we have parts in us who if we don't believe in ourselves enough, then that is Amalek, because that is giving up to the skepticism of not believing that we can be, that we can change, that we can serve Hashem properly, that we can relate to each other properly. So any of that sense of saying I can never change because I've tried it already 20 times is Amalek. So that's taking it a completely different way, because for them it was completely, that was irrelevant. Yes, they dealt with anti-Semitism, they dealt with pogroms, they dealt with entire communities being wiped out, but they never called that Amalek. You don't see that anywhere in
Now I
those
think
works.
we have to talk about a few Purim rules, halachot. So
So go
I
ahead.
think So I want to start with something that is Moshe David mentioned, and we won't go into the rules of Purim Meshulash. That's very complicated. It will happen again only in 20 years, and only in Jerusalem. No, are there more places in Israel that also Hebron is
Yeah,
also Jerusalem and Hebron, right?
Hebron, Tveria.
Tveria also. Okay, no, I didn't remember which cities, but it's only cities that had
If you're a soldier in Yericho,
Mm,
I
yeah, that's
once talked. I
oh
talked to a soldier in Jericho, like in the Jericho area, because that's the source of the
yeah.
right.
So, yeah.
Yeah,
So the reasoning of Moshe David says here that the difference between um, uh, cities that had a wall around the city in the time of Joshua, not in the time of the Megillat Esther, but in the time of Joshua. It means in the time that Israel came into the land of Israel, and they have a different day to celebrate Purim. We celebrate Purim on the 14th, and they celebrate Purim on the 15th of Adar, which is a very weird. Like we don't have any other holiday that has two different dates. The Jews,
in Megillat Esther.
what
It's written in Megillat Esther
exactly?
that they kept it on two separate days. If you read
E-
the Megillah, and I think you can use this week to prepare and read the Megillah before Purim, I think it's a good idea, and you'll see that there.
Exactly. But when we read the rule in the Mishnah, that the original was even more. It says that the first wording now, and I'm not going to go into the details because it's very complicated, but the first sentence in the Mishnah says that Megillah is read either on the 11th, 12th, 13th,
Yeah.
14th, or 15th of Adar, which is very weird because we always think of a high holiday that this is something we have um, to prepare to. Like our calendar is, we can't say which day will Pesach be. Oh, Monday is not that good. Let's make it Sunday, or let's make it Thursday, right? There's no such thing. All the high holidays are about a date that something happened. So or because a date of that is written in the Torah. So it's not, you can't move it. We don't move Hanukkah because of which day, because these are the dates. We always start at the 25th of Kislev. And here comes a specific high holiday that can be moved around. Now today we don't move it a lot around. This year is the one of the only years when you move it around. that in Jerusalem they have like thing that they need to do Friday and thing that they have to do on Sunday. So it's a very weird situation in Jerusalem and in these cities. But the essence of this moving around, I think, is relevant for all of us because it goes back to the origins in the Megillah, and there, part of the thing that happened in the Megillah is the first thing that we have in the Jewish people that is connected to the diaspora, to a Jewish people who are spread all over the world, right? All over the 127 countries of Achashverosh, of Persian, which was like the biggest empire of the time. And suddenly we have a very weird concept that didn't exist anywhere in any other time in the biblical time, that we're not Jews that experience one thing, because all the different Jews experience different things all over the world. There was a separation and evolved to different directions later on. So Purim is actually a celebration of the diaspora, and in that sense, very relevant for us. And the reason that it would be able to move, because what's the most important part of Purim was the gathering together. Lech knos et kol haYehudim. Go and gather all the Jews in Shushan. And the same thing, every place that the decree of Haman came to, they had tzom, and they fasted, like we will have on Thursday. And when we talk about the rules of Purim here, even in this year when it's what we call Purim Meshulash, that Purim in Jerusalem, in these special cities, falls on Shabbat, we all fast the same day. The day that we all connected it on Thursday. We all fast. Also in regular years, they don't fast in Jerusalem on the day of our Purim. They fast the day before. So Tanit Esther is a day of everyone combined. The celebration of Purim is two different dates of the Jewish people. And here it's about the gathering, and it's also about the local gathering. The reason that in the Mishnah they moved 11th, 12th was for the farmers to be able to support the cities with their
with their produce,
yes, exactly, with their produce, because it was needed for the gathering. And in that sense, we insisted on the togetherness, and I think this is at least one essence that we can talk about also for this Purim, especially if you're in the diaspora when we connect in different places. But this is also one of the rules of Purim, which is like one of the weirdest we have, the Mishloach Manot, that we send food to each other. Now, Mishloach Manot is not charity, right? It's like charity you could say you're supposed to give food to the poor. Then it was very simple. Then we all understand it's about taking care of the food. But Mishloach Manot Ish L'Rehu is giving food gifts to your friends, and that is like, why? Now today almost all the Mishloach Manot are lots of sweets, but in the past it was actually things for dinner, like for the Mishteh of Purim. And what kind of rule is it that you need? I need to give Liora some food, and Liora will give Katrina some food, and she will give like, why? You have to give two different types of food to minimum two different people. That's like the minimum. Two different types of food doesn't mean it's the ruling is it's according to the brachot. So two different brachot. So you can give, for example, wine and fruits, or you learn the rules of brachot. So, but I think this is so beautiful because it means we mix our food. We create like a huge padlock, right? That everyone bring their own food along. We mix it. We make some kind of a connection between our homes through the food that is a very unique mitzvah that only exists on Purim, Mishloach Manot. And saying that, we have, of course, the 4 rulings of Purim. So Mishloach Manot is one of them. Which are the other 3? And I know you know, so
It's what we have in Purim.
yes. Which 4 mitzvot do we have in Purim? Who's the brave one to come in and say? The 4 mems. That's a way to remember. Yes, Esther.
Okay, the first very important is twice we have to hear and read Megillah, Mikra, Megillah.
Yes, so that's the
Second
first
is,
mem, Megillah.
yeah,
right?
and then another mem starting with Mishloach Manot.
Yeah,
And
I just mentioned the Mishloach Manot.
Yeah, and then Matanot Levionim, which is money to the poor, any poor. And then Mishtei Simcha.
Mishteh v'simcha.
Have a party, kosher party.
Of course, kosher party. And I promise you, the party with Rav Moshe David is very different than with me. I think Rav Moshe David has a bit more alcohol than I have on the day of Purim.
No, I don't. I'm gonna try to do 2 days.
Okay, but
If you have one Purim and then you go to Yerushalayim, then you can end up having to drink all over again.
Yeah,
but everybody knows their limit. But that is important. Those, and why they are starting with mem, because the mem is very important. They are all starting with mem. Mem. If you think mem sufit in Hebrew, it is like a closed room. So that's the way also we guard. It is explained. I don't know, is it Kabbalistic? So we have to guard our soul and our homes. We cannot just bring anybody to our homes, right? And our home is also synagogue. We cannot just also invite Haman to our parties.
But
right?
Esther, Esther, but this is exactly where you go wrong. Because Purim is the day, we say, why do we drink? You have to get, it doesn't say you have to get drunk, it says you have to get, in then you should say, berus, like a bit
intoxicated.
Tipsy.
But
you have to do enough, Esther, you have to do enough to be able to
recognize.
Recognize the difference between the wicked Haman and the blessed Mordechai. So we don't go around in Purim and try to point fingers. He's evil. He's evil. He's evil. No. We actually in Purim we can see maybe the evil and the blessing in every person, also in ourselves.
No. Yes. Okay. I close.
For adding. On a practical level, something that I try to do is that if you have someone, that maybe your kids aren't their best friends with them, or someone that you even, have not such a good relationship with, Purim is an opportunity to open up the door to each other and to specifically give Mishloach Manot, or to teach, like I try to teach our kids or whatever, to open it up and to just give that to open up new relationships and just to show the caring and the love. And as Rav Jair was saying before, especially this year, that this idea of gathering and caring for each other, we've all felt how important it is wherever we are. So to know that someone is out there with you. I got a call last week from United States, from Vermont, with people that are dealing with a lot of hate in their community. And I said to them, they were asking for how to deal with these different demonstrations and whatever. But I said, no less of a focus is to use the opportunity of finding those who of strengthening each other and being together and gathering together, and supporting one another, not only putting my energy into fighting the other. So I think this is also an important message in Purim. But as Esther mentioned, that we have the mitzvah of hearing the Megillah twice, right? So if you heard it at night, right, you need to hear it at night, which is just after the end of the fast of Esther, which reminds us, like Rav Yair was saying, of gathering together and the power of being together, and fasting together. And it was a woman who initiated the fast. Um, and it's in that sense, it shows the power of the intuition of the woman to lead the way. You see that with Esther throughout the story, that she's the one telling. Mordechai is the head, right, of the Beit Din. He's the head of the supreme religious court. He's the biggest tzaddik, the also pious man, and she's telling him what to do. Go do this and go do this because I know what's right. And
Not through the whole story of Moshe David. In the beginning, she does everything he says, and then she takes over.
Yeah,
There's a
when it
switch.
becomes effective, yes. So in that sense, there's an important role of women in this, but we have, just to go back to the halachot. So we have the Megillah in the evening, the Megillah in the morning, and then afterwards we have the Matanot Le'Evyonim that you could either do through. The important thing is that it's given, if possible, on the same day, so that the poor people will know that they have what to eat. It's not it could be a chocolate bar and an apple, right? As simple as can be. It's not going to so supposed to be something you go crazy over. It's supposed to be from your heart to someone else to show that you care, right? The mishloach manot, matanot levyonim. On the other hand, it has to be something which can provide what a person needs in order to eat their seudah, so that you can, and they should be receiving it on the same day, so
From
you
Moshe
can
David,
eat.
I suggest actually
Yeah.
that everyone can give, when you talk about this, also the ruling, we're supposed to give it the same day, and that it will be given. So it's not enough to send money to some charity or organizations, but actually there are a few organizations that do that, and they can help us. So we can send the links here, maybe to Pamonim or to like specifically charity organizations that works in Israel, that you can give, and you're sure that it will be given the same day to poor people,
I can
that they can
also,
use it for.
yeah, I can
You
also
can
make
give it through
sure.
us, yes, or
Yeah.
in every community, but also give a link to someone who just want to be able to send so maybe we can send to the form of the Beit Midrash a place where they can send the money to give it in the very same day.
So we can either through, like Rav Yair is saying, any of your community rabbis or me, you can give through us, and we'll make sure that poor people will get it on the same day. And I can also, I'll take up that suggestion, and I can send a few links to make it easier. And with tzedakah, you can choose, right, who you want to give. It's your money, and you can choose who you would want to give it to. But the point here is not only supporting charity, like there's so much charity to support, especially in Israel today, but to make sure that people are receiving what they need in order to be able to eat the
Celebrate
Suda of
Purim,
Purim and celebrate properly. So the amount to be given is at least what would be the average meal, for a decent meal to be able to have. So it's not a luxurious meal in a restaurant, but something basic in the economy that you live, if you're giving there, or to whatever economy you're giving.
So remember, prices in Israel is a bit higher than in Scandinavia, so a bit more than.
So if you're giving in Israel, if you were to give 100 shekel, for sure that would be enough, I think, for two people to get basic needs for a meal. I'm just saying a basic minimum. But you could give, of course, more to be able to, so that they can get something besides chicken and rice. Unfortunately, it's quite expensive in Israel, not only in Copenhagen. Tikva, you have your hand up so long. I'm sorry if you're tired.
Thank you, Rav. I have a question about the fasting.
Yes.
Until 12 or in afternoon, or what is the time?
No, it's first of all, it's in every community you have a. If you look at the calendar, you probably and I
Okay.
know at least in Norway, in Oslo, they have it. In our community, you have exactly the time when it's different. So I can't tell you exactly when, but the fasting going out during the evening service, during reading of Megillat Esther. Like
Okay.
you said, we say Mariv and reading Megillat Esther, and while the fast is going out, it's like in the same time. So basically, in the middle of Megillat Esther, you can take a chocolate bar with you and or drink a glass of water or just eat after services.
Okay.
And so we have to add also the Tanit Esther from all the fasts is the most lenient. Like it's a bit so whoever has the slightest condition, for of course pregnant or a bit sick in any way, then you're not from all the fasts, that's the one who is like the most it's the less I don't know how to, like, you understand what I mean, right?
The most lenient. The most
Yeah, it's the most
lenient.
lenient from all the fasts. So if anyone has difficulties of fasting, then it's then you're not obligated, of course. But of course, it's you should fast, and you will also experience in synagogue
Yes.
the reading of fast and such in the Tfilat Mincha that you do before.
Just Rav Yair, I'm just going to go through very fast, just like a list of things pertaining to Purim, okay? Because we've been talking a lot around, but I'll just go very quick, and if I forget anything, you can remind me. So the first thing that we have is the fast of Esther, Tanit Esther, which is from just before sunrise until, as Rav Yair said, after sunset, and we immediately begin with the first mitzvah of Purim, which is the Megillah. In the evening, it's nice to have a nice seudah or something nice to like a festive meal, but it's not required. It's not the seudah of Purim, it's not in the evening, but it does say in halakha that you should have something nice in the evening, as it is a day of festivity. In the morning, we have Shacharit. We have a special, we have the Megillah reading, and we have a special reading from the Torah as well. Okay, and then we've already read the second time of the Megillah, and then we have the two mitzvot that we mentioned, which are Mishloach Manot, to give, right, like we mentioned. It doesn't have to be anything special. It could be, something. It should be two brachot. So if you have, for example, a cake and a chocolate bar, it's fine, or a cake and an apple, right? I'm just giving simple examples because you don't need to go crazy in order to keep the mitzvah, and definitely not make a competition of us who's giving a more expensive one. That's not the point. Matanot le'evyonim, we discussed, and I'll send the link, Bezrat Hashem, and you can also contact your rabbi. Regarding the Su'udah of Purim, so the mitzvah of the Su'udah is during the daytime before the sunset. So whenever sunset is in your community, you have to start at least before the sunset, the Su'udah. And to have, right, Su'udah, it's mishteh v'simcha. It's not only drinking wine, but it's specific wine that should be drunk, not other types of alcohol. And to be with good friends. That's just from my own experience, right? If you're going to be opening your heart, you want to be with people that you can open your heart with, and it's a beautiful opportunity to be
Moshe David,
able.
I want to use you saying that to invite those of you who are in Copenhagen and maybe Emmanuel, if you want to join. We will have a mishte. It's a bit complicated this year with Friday, but we will have something at 4 o'clock in the community center before services, so leading into Kabbalat Shabbat. So whoever wants to join is very welcome to write to me. You need to register. Write to me if you want to join this Friday at 4 o'clock.
And, and we have a mitzvah to drink. Maybe Rav Yair and I have differences of opinion on that, but we
I
won't
drink one small, yeah, and Lilein.
So drink one
One shot.
small. Yeah, okay. Okay. But we won't get into that because I'm trying to be practical. Regarding so that's about the meal itself. Remember that throughout Purim, in the tefillot, we add al hanisim, okay? So that we discussed, remember when we looked at the Amidah, we saw the different additions that you could add to the different places in Amidah. So it's a bit confusing because it's not the, right, Yalev Yavo, it's in the third to last bracha
They
Modi.
all remember it from Chanukah, Moshe David.
So, so it's exactly, so it begins the same one, Ala Nisim, and also in Birkat Hamazon. So remember, throughout Purim, if you're eating bread, then you will, even not during the Suda, of course, then whenever you're saying Birkat Hamazon, you will also have the Ala Nisim. So that is throughout the Tefillot. The Tefillot, besides that, are regular Tefillot. They're not, remember we talked about the festive Tefillot, Shabbat Tefillot. It's an ordinary day, because we're allowed to drive in the car, we can use our phones. One note on that is that it has been accepted, right, according to the Minhag, that one should refrain as much as possible from work. You're supposed to be focused on the mitzvot of the day. So if it's possible not to work, then that is recommended halachically, not to work. Okay? So that's just going to the mitzvot itself. I think if you look at in Sefaria, you can read the part of Pninei Halacha, and he goes through the different mitzvot. You can find them because I gave them in a very short 3 minutes just now. So if you want more details, and of course, your community rabbi is the person to ask if you have any questions.
Yeah, we had a beautiful question now on the chat, Moshe David, about hearing Megillah through Zoom, which or online in a way. And do you fulfill your rule through hearing it online? Now, actually, regarding this, you will get different answers from different rabbis. So this is not something that has just like one clear answer. So we can't go into the whole discussion. I would say very simple, like at the rule, try not to. Like if you can come to synagogue, come to synagogue. If you can't, then of course it's better to join online than not at all. And online means not a YouTube like a YouTube film of someone who read the Megillah, but something that you join, something that is happening at the same time, that you are actually connected to, and then it's it's of course better than not hearing at all. But of course, the ideal is to come in.
I think we're still dealing with COVID a lot in this, because people would never have thought before it's an option, but as you say, there are those who allow it halachically in a case in which it's not otherwise possible. During COVID, when I had that question, then I had people find, there was one case in which So I said they should have a real Megillah that they're reading from word by word together with me. And in that way, they were for sure able. But I think it's the whole idea that Rav Yair that you talked about, Lech Knosset Kol HaYehudim, is gathering together. Here we are on Zoom. We don't feel the same togetherness if we were together in a Shiur, now in a Beit Midrash. I saw that question also in the chat, and I hope to have information soon about a Shabbaton so that we can actually gather together. We're having a discussion about it, and I hope to be able to let you know soon, because I think that togetherness is very important, especially in Purim, especially in the year that we're going through. So please go to the effort to try to make it for Megillah reading in the evening, in the morning. Then you could already do your mitzvot of Mishloach Manot and Matanot Levyonim on the spot and come back for a nice mishteh with Rav Yair. And if he's not drunk enough, you can call me and see if I answer, and then we'll see how that works.
It will be very funny to hear of Moshe David that there.
Okay. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, we really hope as our tefillot are that in the same way that V'nafochu, in the same way that Purim turned around, it was a terrible situation in which the whole Jewish people were basically going to be wiped out in the entire Persian Empire, the whole world, the whole civilized world of the time, 127 countries, and they were just going to be killed, just like that. Similar to the Shoah, right? In that you have that, right, extermination. And it turned around and it ended up that they were they ended up in a situation that they couldn't even imagine possible before. So it gives us the hope.
And the nation of the world people converted.
And it says a very interesting term in the Megillah, and this will finish with this. It's a term that is only used once, that it says that many of the non-Jews were being Jewished, right? Mityahadim. It doesn't say that they converted. It said mityahadim. They were being Judified. So what does that mean? It means that they had this deep sense that, oh, I want to be Jewish. It's a great thing to be Jewish. And in all that we're dealing with and the challenges that we're dealing with in the world today, that's a wonderful thing to pray for and to dream of, that the respect and the honor of everything that we stand for and the true morals that we know that we stand for be a light for the nations as they should be.
Maybe we should first stand for the thing, and then we should hope that people will see it. Let's work on doing it first in the best way we can.
Rav Yair, I know you're doing a great job, so we can all rely on you. And Bezrat Hashem, may it be a positive thing, and also that we don't feel threatened in the way that we feel today. And pray that all of this is, we never knew this. You just read the Purim story, and it took some years until it played out, and you see how crazy things were going in through these days, and how, one sentence can change the whole world, and then this and then that, and we're going through crazy times, and also amazing miracles, and we shouldn't forget the amazing miracles that we've seen in our own eyes in the last 14 months or 518 days, is it? I think now. So Bezrat Hashem, we should focus on being thankful, because we say the Ala Nisim in the thankfulness. We should be focused on thanking Hashem for all of the miracles, from small to big, that also saved so many Jewish people in the last in this period, and also the craziness that we're going through. Bezrat Hashem, that it should all turn in a turnaround only for the good for all of Am Yisrael. Purim Sameach.
Purim Sameach. Shabbat Tov, everyone.
Purim Sameach.
Thank you so much.
Jair